Hi there! Yuki's been out for about 48 hours now, and her reception seems to be a bit lukewarm. Like Haru, she's a striker, but whereas Haru focuses on high-cost cards for single-target burst damage, Yuki specializes in spamming low-cost cards for AoE wave clearing. Her kit is fairly straightforward, but her performance so far doesn't quite seem to live up to the hype surrounding the first post-launch rate-up unit. To avoid rushing to conclusions, I spent some extra time testing her in both Chaos and Dimensional Twilight. In this video, I'll give a brief overview of her abilities and gameplay, talk about team synergies, and share my thoughts on her current performance. A more in-depth guide will follow once I've had more time to experiment with her cards. Without further ado, let's get into it. First, I'd like to thank LD Shop for sponsoring this video. LDShop.gg is a gaming top-up platform developed by the LD Player Emulator Group, designed to help you save money when spending on your favorite gacha games. On the homepage, you'll immediately notice some familiar titles like Wuwa and the Hoyo hits. Scrolling down, you'll also find new releases, including CZN, which currently offers discounts of up to 31% on your purchases. When you click on the game or search for it at the top, you'll see everything normally available in the in-game cash shop. The monthly subscription package, battle pass, one-time bundles, or paid crystals, all at varying discounts. Buying crystals will still include the first-time top-up bonus if you haven't purchased the pack yet. Each game page also provides detailed instructions on how to top up. For CZN, you need to provide your server, login method, and player ID. To demonstrate how it works, let's buy the monthly pass. Before entering your info, LD Shop notes that the easiest and fastest way to top up is via your Stove account. Once you've confirmed your details, LD Shop prompts you to log out of the game until delivery is complete. You can track the status at the top of your order details page. In my case, it took only a few minutes. Once the delivery was finished, I logged back in, and there it was, the first day of the monthly login reward. You can find my referral link in the description or the pinned comment below. Using it will give you an extra 15% discount on your first order, saving you up to $50. Thanks again to LD Shop for sponsoring this video. Yuki's core mechanic is called Inspiration, which grants her cards bonus effects such as extra damage, reduced cost, or additional hits. To activate the effect, her cards need to be drawn via abilities, meaning in pretty much any way except for a normal start of turn hand draw. Here, she has Flash Slash in hand, at baseline a 2-cost AoE ability with a 180% multiplier, and an Inspiration effect that lowers its cost by 1. Since we drew the card normally, the Inspiration effect is currently inactive. Trickery Strike is her method of activating the effect once they were drawn the quote-unquote wrong way. After the attack, her AoE skill begins to glow, indicating that it is inspired, now with a lowered cost. As the attack hits, notice the follow-up damage. This is coming from Freezing Blade, a buff that deals damage whenever inspired cards are played. This card can go multiple ways, most of which modify how or how much damage is dealt. Most notably, this option can activate Inspiration for one of her normally drawn cards each turn, making Yuki less dependent on supports. This, however, comes at the expense of her DPS and unfortunately doesn't have an initiation tag, formerly Outbreak of War. Having the proper team setup will be preferable over more self-reliance, but it's a useful way to navigate around missing synergies at this early stage of the game. Note also this variant, which detaches itself from the Inspiration mechanic, signifying a potentially different playstyle. Next, similarly to other strikers, Yuki has a skill that helps her draw her cards. In her case, this is not just utility, but essential to the activation of Inspiration. Prepare to Subdue specifically targets her attack cards and provides a multiplicative 20% damage bonus to the drawn card. The epiphanies for this card offer minor variations of the theme, most notably this one, which now has its own Inspiration effect. While this bonus makes her even more reliant on the card draw gimmick, it does offer the greatest benefit. Note that all of these are limited to attack cards, so even if you have multiple copies of this, which you most likely will want to have, Yuki wouldn't be able to easily inspire it without help from others. Once used, the drawn Flash Slash Inspiration effect lowers its cost by 1, and the 20% damage bonus provides an increase from 180% to 216%. The epiphanies for this card either offer variations for the Inspiration effect, or remove the mechanic for a more conventional playstyle. This option shifts her towards single target damage stacking akin to Haru, while this option maintains her AoE prowess without the reliance on card draws. Then, her final unique card is another AoE ability with an Inspiration effect that provides an additional hit while lowering its damage. To activate the effect of the already drawn card, we use Trickery Strike again. The epiphanies of this card range from activating a random card, a selected card, all cards, or even drawing one of Yuki's cards. Note that this variant is a way for Yuki to activate the Inspiration epiphany of her skill card, making it another worthwhile target for duplication. Once the effect is activated, we see that the 20% damage increase is applied multiplicatively, lowering the multiplier by 36%. This downside is removed with their first ego manifestation. In the first story battle, they are showcasing what Yuki is all about. Here, she's on her own with her cards in hand. Trickery Strike's upgrade that activates all cards in hand is needed for this artificial scenario. Flash Slash has the Epiphany lowering it to 0 cost, and Iceberg Cleave gains its additional hit, all of which is followed up by damage due to Freezing Blade's effect. To finish the group off, Yuki's Ego skill provides even more AoE damage. This will also put her cards in hand back on top of the draw pile, which is utility intended to go along with card drawing supports for the activation of Inspiration. In this battle, we are using an unusual tech for Rinoa, which uses her flower to draw cards rather than create bullets. This gets prepared to subdue with activated Inspiration into our hand, now able to pull 2 of Yuki's attack cards from the deck with a 20% damage bonus, all at 0 cost. One flaw to this card spamming playstyle is that unlike Haru, who draws Anchor Shot via Anchor Pointer from anywhere, Yuki is restricted to the draw and discard piles. Here, I am using her skill card, but nothing happens. All of her cards are in the used section of the graveyard, which is inaccessible to drawing effects, unless stated otherwise. When this is the case, Yuki's turn is over, no matter how much AP or drawing utility is left. Since Yuki reduces some of her cards to 0 cost, this is necessary balancing, but it obviously limits her potential. Here, you can see that we are able to draw from the discard section of the graveyard, meaning cards that were used on the previous turn. So at least you're not only restricted to the draw pile. Since Yuki's main playstyle centers around card drawing, any character that provides this is a welcome teammate. For Chaos missions, which send you off with only your starter cards and no guarantee for the ideal epiphanies, Veronica is by far her best partner. She only needs to unlock her 2 unique skill cards, while the rest is a nice bonus. Moreover, she adds much needed damage while Yuki slowly builds up her deck. Yuki is great at clearing AoE stages, but when it comes to single target fights, most of her builds have issues. Since every Chaos dungeon features 2 bosses with lots of HP to get through, she isn't well suited to carry the team all by her lonesome. Therefore, for Chaos specifically, I don't see her doing well in hypercarry setups where she is flanked by 2 support characters. But as noted, even if you are trying to pair her with Mika and Cassius or Nia, 2 accessible deck cycling options, they require far too specific upgrades to function properly in that role. From my experience, Cassius can feel truly awful before you get to choose his quest and have Devil Dice at 0 cost, and Nia needs upgrades that move her away from her discard gimmick. Therefore, there is no character besides Veronica that offers both early run drawing power and good damage. This makes Yuki's deck building experience overly reliant on a single 5-star character. Having said that, I figured that without Veronica, the most promising Chaos setups pair Yuki with another capable DPS or sub-DPS, largely dependent on the word's elemental typing. For instance, for Swamp of Judgment, which is Yuki's preferred element, there are a lot of blue enemies as well. Magna can offer both shielding and damage, making her a reasonable option for additional damage and sustain. Similarly, you could pair her with Khalib when going for Twin Star Shadows for a lot of AoE power. The current season dungeon gives Void characters an advantage, which I guess could be anyone besides Rin. Running her with another pure DPS like Rinoa or Karen is much less stable, but seemed to work better than expecting Yuki to carry the team on her back alone. Perhaps Shizuru turns out to be a decent partner, but we'll have to wait for a kit reveal. Aside from the more subdued Chaos experience, I'd expect Yuki to perform well enough in a role when her own and the team's stacks are properly built. Currently, the non-Chaos late game is Dimensional Twilight, which was designed for Yuki this time around. Be careful of reading too much into her performance here, since the support buff grants her a one-time 50% damage bonus each turn, and the stages offer green multi-target fights. I've tried her alongside Nia and Rin, since I haven't built Cassius yet. Neither of their decks were optimized for supporting Yuki though. Here, Nia's deck focuses on discarding to support Rinoa, and Rin's deck is tailored around card exhaustion for Karen. Still, they do offer some card drawing utility, which worked alright for this hastily put together showcase. It's clear that Dimensional Twilight is designed to be cleared with a rate-up character, but who knows how well she'll do once the next season comes around. In conclusion, I'd say Yuki seems reasonably balanced, though somewhat restricted due to her gimmick. There aren't too many characters that specialize in AoE damage, but outside of a Dimensional Twilight that's designed to sell her, I'm not sure there's much need for that. This may change in the future, but for now I would say versatility is more of a priority. Then, if you don't have Veronica, you probably won't have the best Chaos experience with her. This is unfortunate, given how much of the game's time is spent there. Upcoming characters may remedy this issue, but I'd advise against pulling for uncertain future value. If you have other green damage dealers already, namely Hugo or Luke, you should be fine tackling element-specific content. Unless you're really starving for a wave clearer, I suggest waiting until we know more about Chizuru. This will give people time to figure out Yuki's optimal builds and team compositions, while you get to have a better picture of what's coming next. On that note, keep in mind that Yuki enters a standard pool after her rate up, so there's no fear of missing out. Even if future characters perfectly synergize with her kit, thereby elevating her meta value, you may obtain her by chance at any time. That should do it for this first impressions video. Let me know if you've already pulled the trigger, or if patience happens to be one of your virtues. It's always a fine line for any gacha game to balance new characters. Overtune them and people cry power creep, undertune them and it's disappointment after the hype. Personally, I take it as a good sign that the devs are holding back a little, not trying to oversell the latest addition to the roster. But that's just me. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.